There's this invisible force that literally stops our entire world from grinding to a halt. It's in your car, it's in the power plants that light up our cities, and we spend trillions of dollars every single year just fighting its opposite. That force, it's lubrication. So let's dive into this hidden world.
We've all been there, right? Your bike chain starts getting all creaky, your car engine makes a sound it definitely shouldn't be making, a huge machine in a factory just stops. Well, at the heart of all of that is one single universal problem. It's a constant battle that every moving part is fighting every second of the day.
So, the villain of our story is friction. And to really understand just how destructive it is, we have to go microscopic. I mean, way, way down, to a level you can't even see, where the real fight is actually happening. Okay, so check this out. This reveals a pretty mind-blowing truth. Even the smoothest surfaces we can possibly make, we're talking two pieces of highly polished steel, they actually look like two mountain ranges grinding against each other on a microscopic level. And those tiny little peaks, they have a name: asperities. And when those surfaces move against each other without any protection, well, this is what you get. The tiny peaks literally crash into each other. They break off, they can even weld themselves together for just a fraction of a second. This generates a ton of heat, it wastes energy, and it just tears the surfaces apart, molecule by molecule. That's what wear and tear actually is.
So, how in the world do you stop these microscopic mountains from destroying each other? I mean, polishing them perfectly flat is practically impossible. The solution is actually much, much more clever. You just make sure they never touch in the first place. And this shows the entire big idea in one shot. On the left, you've got that destruction we were talking about. But on the right, you have protection. A thin film of lubricant creates a barrier, separating the two surfaces. And that changes absolutely everything. And here's the key takeaway. The solid parts aren't grinding on each other anymore. Instead, they're gliding past each other on a cushion of liquid. You've basically swapped out that destructive, solid-on-solid friction for the much, much gentler friction within the fluid itself. It's like an invisible force field that prevents wear. But wait, how do you get that film of oil into the most high-pressure spots, right where it's needed the most? This is where the engineering gets really brilliant. Machines are actually designed to use their own motion, the very thing that causes wear, to create their own protective shield. Let's just look at a classic example, a journal bearing. You find these things everywhere. Think about the axle inside a wheel. It's pretty much the same idea. It's just a rotating shaft sitting inside a stationary cylinder, and that tiny little gap between them, it's filled with oil. Okay, so when the machine is off, you've got metal-on-metal contact. That's the bad part, but watch what happens. As the shaft starts to turn, it kind of climbs the wall and starts pulling that sticky oil along with it. Then, as it gets faster, it acts like a pump, forcing oil into that narrowing gap underneath. This creates this incredibly high-pressure wedge of oil. It's almost like a car aquaplaning on a wet road. The pressure just builds and builds until it physically lifts the entire shaft up. And the result is, well, it's astonishing. At its normal operating speed, the shaft is completely supported by this film of oil. It is literally floating. The two metal surfaces are not touching at all. They're completely protected from wear, as long as that film stays put. So, machines can float on oil. Got it. But for that magic to really work, the oil itself has to be just right. I mean, the thin film that floats a giant marine diesel engine is going to be very different from the one in a tiny, delicate scientific instrument. And that's because, well, not all oils are created equal. The single most important property of any oil is its viscosity. That's really just a fancy word for how thick it is. Its resistance to flow. So think about water. It has a really low viscosity. It's thin. Then think about honey. It has a super high viscosity. It's thick. Getting that viscosity just right is absolutely crucial for creating and maintaining that protective film. So this chart breaks it down pretty well. For simple, low-stress jobs, you've got your basic mineral oil. But say you need to fight off rust, you'll want a premium oil with corrosion inhibitors. For those really hard-working diesel engines, heavy-duty oils come packed with detergents to keep everything clean. And then there's alkaline oils. See, combustion engines create these nasty corrosive acids, and these oils have a high total base number, or TBN. It's basically a built-in antacid, protecting the engine from being eaten away from the inside. And that brings us to the last piece of the puzzle, the base oil, that does all the heavy lifting of lubrication. But modern oils are packed with secret ingredients that give them some pretty amazing superpowers.
They're called additives. These are super specialized chemicals that are blended into the oil, and each one has a very specific job to do. They're what turns a simple lubricant into a high-performance engineering fluid. So for example, you've got detergents that act like tiny little janitors, just scrubbing away carbon deposits. You have corrosion inhibitors that form a chemical shield on metal surfaces to stop rust. Anti-foaming agents are there to stop the oil from getting churned up into a useless froth. And viscosity improvers? They help the oil stay at the right thickness, whether the engine is freezing cold or running crazy hot. So there you have it. We went from microscopic mountains grinding each other into dust, all the way to a massive shaft just floating on a cushion of liquid. It's such an elegant solution, right? A perfect marriage of physics and chemistry, all designed to protect our machines.
It's a pretty wild thought. Nearly every machine that powers our civilization is floating on a film of oil that can be just a few molecules thick. It's this invisible force holding it all together. Which, of course, leaves us with one last, really important question to think about. What happens when that film breaks?